Well, the Feast of the Holy Archangels is on Thursday, and one Catholic journalist suggests the faithful should spend part of the day in a movie theater. That's because this Thursday is the one day to view a film on the big screen all about Saint Michael the Archangel.
Michael is the breath of the Holy Spirit who will defeat the Antichrist and all evil spirits.
Saint Michael, Meet the Angel, examines his role in helping the faithful from historical and cultural aspects. The documentary from Fathom Events is being shown in theaters around the United States and will be available for streaming after Thursday. And we go now to the movie's U.S. producer, Oscar Delgado, who also happens to be a former war correspondent with NBC News. Oscar, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. Talk to us a little bit more about the movie.
Thank you.
Well, we're so grateful. So thank you so much, Oscar. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit more about the movie and also how and why you got involved.
Well, the film is about Saint Michael and all the other angels. And I got involved because there's a problem, I think, at this point of we need weapons to help. I mean, you talked with Maureen about prayer and fasting, which is really critical. But the other element that we need to talk about are how God gives us holy angels, especially Saint Michael, to combat the culture. And so what happened is I was approached, my last film was Purgatory, and I was approached again by a documentary maker that gave it to me and said, look, can you look at the film? Can you recut it? Can you make it for a U.S. audience? And I looked at it, I recut it, I put some other bonus features in there, and then I released it again because for the Feast of Saint Michael, because we need the holy angels, Tracy. We need to get the holy angels involved in our battle. And sometimes we forget that God has given us these tools to move forward and that we're not alone. And so that's why I was inspired to make this film and to make it known to everyone.
Yeah, and I know this is the first documentary of its kind about Saint Michael. Let's talk a little bit more about why you think it's so important for people to learn more about this extraordinary archangel, especially, Oscar, in these times that we're living in right now.
Well, Saint Michael, I mean, he has protected the faithful from plague. He has healed all through history. You can see that he has been very much invoked for against violence, about the attacks, about war. And you see in the documentary, you see all these different elements that St. Michael is involved in, and he's a very big warrior. And what's interesting is St. Michael is humble. I mean, when the battle was on, what was the first thing he said? Who is like unto God? So St. Michael, through his humility, has his power. And so when you see the documentary, you'll see all the different elements and all the different things he has done through history and why we really need him now, especially Revelation 12. Talk about where we are now. We're in a battle, and we need the holy angels. We need to call on St. Michael. We need to call on the holy angels. And if you see the film, you will understand the importance of what we're doing, of what's going on now, and why we need to reach into them and invoke them, which is really critical at this point.
Absolutely. Another thing I want to talk about in the film, it's extremely visual, showing beautiful architecture and art. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, we went to the basilicas that are devoted to St. Michael, and one of the places is a cave in Gargano, and it's beautiful. I mean, these basilicas that have been made in honor and of St. Michael, you'll really get to see the beauty and the power and the majesty of who he is and what he's about. Just walking in. There's a story about St. Francis never went into the cave of St. Michael because of the holiness. It's just unbelievable. But you will feel when you go and you see this film, you will feel the power, I believe, and the importance of invoking the holy angels and really starting to develop a relationship, especially with the St. Michael and your own guardian angel. And that's what we try to bring out in this film. It's funny, September 29th, as you said, is the feast of St. Michael and the other archangels. That's why I picked the date. Sometimes they come to me and said, where do you want it? And I did it purposely on September 29th because I want to connect heaven and earth, so in a sense. So being a war producer, I could see so much violence. So I figured, you know what? I want to do something that we can combat that, a remedy. And this is one of the things that I did and can continue to do with having this type of a film out there.
Yeah, and I want to quickly, we're running out of time, but I do want to touch on that. As you mentioned, as we mentioned, you used to be a war correspondent. How did you call upon Saint Michael during those times when you were in those war zones?
Well, when I was in Sarajevo, there was one of the nights I remember that I was at the square and bullets started flying. And I remember calling out, praying to Saint Michael's for protection. And, people were hit on the left, but I was not hit. And I was just, I gave and I attributed to the Saint Michael. So I guess the thing is, being a war producer, I always kind of saw the worst of humanity. And I said, when I retired and started doing something else, I wanted to bring out what we can do to combat what is going on in this war, because we are in a battle. So Saint Michael was one of the things that inspired me, and seeing this and putting it together, I want others to join in and know that we're not alone in this battle and this fight, and that we need to invoke again Saint Michael and our own guardian angels. So if you go to saintmichaelmovie.com, there you can see where it's playing. It's playing in the United States, in Puerto Rico, Poland, and the UK. It's an international release because other countries want it. So I'm very grateful, but I do want people to be able to experience and really start developing a devotion to the holy angels. It's important at these times.
Absolutely it is. And thank you so much for doing this movie, Oscar. We appreciate, can't wait to see you. Thank you for your time. God bless you.
God bless you, Tracy.